know, I was really impressed hearing all the stories of the different veterans and everything. And the one thing that got to me, nobody said anything about 1942. And that was the year, at 17 years old, I had just graduated from high school. I made my way forward with a group of guys I was hanging around with in high school to join the service. You know, we had to fight this war. These guys can't do this. Pearl Harbor changed everything. So to cut this thing down a little bit, we went everywhere, each service, and said, take us as a body and we go. And there wasn't anybody to do that except the Army. Well, I finally found out that was the first lie I was ever told. So guess what? Here I am, eager to fly, get into the flying business and everything, and we had signed this mental oath with these guys, would stick together. Well, unfortunately, some of them couldn't pass the eye exam, so I was stuck. And pretty soon I ended up in a damn infantry down in Texas at a replacement training center. And I said to myself many times, what am I doing here? Well, the answer was that while I was in high school, I was in the band, and they became an ROTC band, and so we did get some training, which was, you know. So I went to the Army as a semi-qualified infantryman. How do you do that? Well, anyway, I went through the training, and I was ready to go Pacific Way as a rifleman, and I was just sick. And I knew what the odds were out there. But luckily, I was called in. The company commander said, well, you did pretty good in the range and a few other things. We need shipping out so many NCOs. I'm going to promote you to corporal, keep you. Well, that changed my life. And after a few months, you would believe it, I was a staff sergeant. In the Army about 4 months. They were shipping them out so fast. But anyway, along came World War II in Europe. And the 8th Air Force. And they took such a beating, this daylight bombing over there, that they went out to all the services and said, hey, anybody can qualify as a cadet. Put your papers in and see what happens. So I busted my rear end to get down there, find my name on the dotted line, you know, and took this 8-hour state 9 test again, of course. And they sent me over to Fort Worth. That was at Mineral Wells. Sent me over to Fort Worth and said, get me what they call a 64 physical, a flying physical, and passed that. Pretty soon I had set orders that I was unassigned Air Corps. And my company commander didn't quite appreciate that, since I was supposed to be one of his fair-haired boys. And so after telling me there was no such thing as an officer in the Air Corps and all that kind of crap, I made it into the cadet program. The proviso there to continue was that if I washed out, back to the infantry. So you're talking about incentive. So anyway, I studied hard. And, you know, the transfer to a base, and there was grass out there. I said, my God, that's not the Army, is it? But anyway, to make a short story longer, I got through that phase of my life and went through the qualification and the State 9 test. I don't know if any of you know all about that. And then Bombardier, Navigator, Pilot. Well, you have to qualify by having a certain number. I think 7 for Pilot and 6 for Bombardier and 8 for Navigator or something like that. Well, I was lucky enough to get 9s. So, of course, like everybody else, I selected pilot training. And then they were fat, dumb, and happy, you know, down there in San Antonio, ready to go across the street for pre-flight. I get a call, and you get a report to the faculty board. That generally means you're out. I says, Jesus, what did I do? Couldn't believe it. So they're all spiffed up and everything. Before there's 3 majors that scared the hell out of me. When they saluted, they said, you're going to be a navigator. I said, I want to be a pilot. They said, you want to be a pilot? No, he said, you want to be a navigator or go through that door? The door head over, it says GDO. I said, what does that mean? It says ground duty only. I said, I'd love to be a navigator. Well, as a matter of fact, let me tell you, I was a little bit frightened of the thought. I thought, Jesus, this is going to really be tough. And I went at it, And they sent me to the aerial gunnery school, and then on the pre-flight and everything else, and went through advanced navigation, and I loved it. And I was pretty damn good at it. That was what amazed me. I didn't know anything about this, but I was good. And recommendation when I went through the training, I was lead crew, should be considered lead crew. Well, anyway, we graduated, and 5 of us out of about 500 went to B-29s. The rest of them went to B-24s, C-47s, you know, the regular mix. And I was just delighted because the B-29 is a superb airplane built by Boeing here, and everybody knows it was the class of World War II. It was an airplane that was as fast as the enemy fighters, had remote control gunnery, could go 3,000 miles instead of carry 10 tons of bombs, pressurized. It was really the thing. The unfortunate part was the engines. And they had 2,200 horsepower engines, big Wright engines, and we suffered with those things terribly for a while until later on in the war, finally got over a lot of these problems. There was something like 1,700 modifications on the B-29, believe it or not. But there were a lot of minor ones, but nevertheless, they, you know, we had these techs running around doing everything while we were overseas. And well, anyway, I was sent to Kansas, and I went there as a replacement. The guy that in the squadron, see, the 58th Bomb Wing was the first bomb wing, B-29 bomb wing formed. And so I was assigned to one of their squadrons, and I was replacing a guy that was in a Navigator there that had gotten an auto accident. And so the crew had already been together for a while, or that part of the crew, and so I had to really catch up. Not only that, I had to learn how to become a bombardier, because to be a B-29 Navigator, you had to be a bombardier too. I've been through radar training, so anyway, when I got that all finished, and I worked like hell. Of course, the big problem was that, and this is called the Battle of Kansas. I don't know if any of you people read the history on this thing. The book explains it a little bit better than I can. But they were working like hell to get the B-29 ready. And everybody wanted it. Mountbatten wanted it, Chiang Kai-shek wanted it, they wanted it in Europe. Finally, this is why the Air Force became known as the Air Force directly under General Arnold. And he says, nobody touches this. This is not a damn tactical weapon. He says, this is strategic. And this is the only way we can beat Japan. So anyway, and he was right. And it was quite a battle. But during that period of time, we flew the Marauder, B-26, and B-17 in training. God, every once in a while, a B-29 came along, we'd get a cross-country flight or something in a B-29. So it was a fight to get these things ready, and they had called people from all over the country, mechanics and everything, to work through the worst weather. And they finally got things going, and so this was the first time that a bomb wing consisting of 4 bomb groups and 250 or so airplanes was going to transit from Kansas all the way over there to India. And, you know, we'd been told while we were there in training, oh, you guys are going to go to superb bases. They're really picking things out for you. It's going to be great. But you can't even start to believe what it was like, the one they sent us to. And I'll get to that in a minute. But in any event, this huge armada leaving, and we came to the East Coast and through Greenland all the way across to Marrakesh, Cairo, and all the way over to India. We were leaving airplanes everywhere. In fact, I was in Greenland there for 2 weeks waiting for, they had an accident in Marrakesh, one of the planes crashed, and they had to figure out why and all that stuff. So we sat there in the club, freezing our tails off and waiting for action. But in any event, finally things got straightened out, and we transited all the way across India and got to these perfect bases. And each group had a separate base. Ours was called Chara. And you can imagine just from the name what it was. Now, all of these bases were built by the British. Now, the British built runways, and nothing else. No buildings, no tents, no nothing. And then there's a bunch of huts and thatched huts where all the animals lived. And all night long you hear these things. And when they weren't welcoming, jackals were. I don't know, anybody been to India? Well, I call it the asshole of the world. I don't think you'll argue with me. 135-degree weather, jump in an airplane, flying suit on, sopping wet, and then get to altitude and freeze your tail off. But anyway, it was so bad, our field had a dip in it, and we couldn't use it when it was hot. So what we had to do was fly early in the morning, go to one of the other bases, load up bombs for a mission, or whatever we were going to do. It was really a pain. So they started looking for another base, and by the, I think it was 3 months later, in July, they finally found a suitable place for us, which was just like heaven compared, but it was still India. Well, from India, of course, we flew all over South Asia, went to Hanoi even, Saigon, down to Singapore, 20 hours. That's a bomb mission, 20 hours long. And there's nothing in between that we owned. All Japanese in water. So you can imagine, it was a tough deal. We flew into southern China on some of the missions we could get through, and on southern part of Japan. But it was unsatisfactory, really. I mean, we were flying at 35,000 feet, and bombs were just flying everywhere with those winds up there. It was just terrible. Well, along came a guy who had been pretty successful in Europe, called LeMay. And he straightened things out in a hurry. And we were all scared crapless, really, because he says, we're going to start flying at 5,000 to 6,000 feet. Hey, this airplane's 35,000, you know. He said, not anymore. And I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to go back and pick up some other stories, but I wanted to get this out. And he was right. We flew at 5,000 and 6,000 and 7,000 feet, B-29s, over Japan, and all of their guns, 140 millimeter, couldn't touch it. They couldn't cut the fuses short enough. The 20s and 40 millimeter, yeah, we had to put up with, but that's a hell of a lot different than that heavy stuff that knocks airplanes down. Now, you know, I told you that the B-29 was a superb defensive airplane with its remote control gunnery. The Navigator put temperature, altitude, and speed in that sucker. And if you have that dot on there, that 70 mil ring, you're going to get them. And we did well, but, you know, when you're attacked by 50 airplanes, and you get 5 or 10 airplanes in a it's pretty tough. That's why we lost them. But we lost more airplanes to flak, heavy flak. And it's a tough deal. And you come back and almost every mission you had some damage. Well, God blessed us with a Marine Corps who lost 8,600 people at Iwo Jima and saved the 20th Air Force. I mean it. I've been on Iwo Jima with 300 airplanes were parked in that sucker. And, you know, some of them may have made it back, but there's a lot of airplanes that wasn't going to make that last 7.5 hours to Tinian, Saipan, Guam. Anyway, in India, we struggled on with these missions, and the hump, I don't know if you guys know what the hump is, I'm sure you do, but it was called the Highway to Hell, or the aluminum graveyard, and all kinds of things. We lost something like, I think I wrote it down here, so 509 airplanes were lost in the hump, World War II. And 1,315 guys were killed doing this thing, and actually there was a bunch of 300 and some odd missing. But there was some 1,100 guys who walked out. And I mean to tell you, that in itself, if you've flown the hump and you've seen those mountains and the weather you fly in, I've flown all over the world, and nothing comes close to that area for flying. fog and updrafts, 4,000 or 5,000 feet up and down, everything. It was just terrible. But I made 23 of those crossings. And I don't know, some people say, how the hell did that happen? I said, the Lord was with me. But in any event, we had forward bases in China, and what we'd do is fly cargo into China, and we couldn't make it a permanent base. They were better based than we had in India, but the Japanese army was always close enough that they could get us, and then they couldn't take a chance. So we had a carrier, the ATC carried stuff, and we had converted some of the B-29s into cargo and fuel. They called them F-109, or 109, I think it was, a fuel airplane. And bringing everything up there, and then we'd fly over the hump and load up and go to Manchuria or wherever. And when I think of Manchuria, it just scares the living hell out of me. The first mission I flew in Manchuria, and you know, we were learning things. You know, nobody could tell us, hey, you know what it's going to be like, or what to prepare for. And we got up there, you know, 65 degrees below, and all of our guns froze. We didn't know, boy, from now on, you don't put anything in there. They go in dry. And those guys were tough, and it was really a rough mission. But the second time we came back, we learned how to do it. And every time they assigned that particular mission, everybody goes, oh my God. But anyway, the normal mission was about 16 hours long. And that's still a lot of combat time, you know, per mission. And the guys in Europe, they were flying 6-hour missions or so, and God bless them, they had a real tough time there. Like I say, the guy made 25 missions in Europe. He was doing damn well. And keep in mind that 8th Air Force lost more people, just the 8th Air Force, than the Marine Corps did during the entire war. You get an idea of why they gave us flying pay. You know, the guys, I thought to myself, you know, at least when you're on the ground, you can dig a hole. There's no holes to be dug up there. And anyway, the missions were slow. You could fly one, if you flew every 3 days, it was amazing because by the time you briefed, by the time you got the aircraft, everything, flew the mission, come back, debrief, sleeping, it was impossible to fly in more than 3 days. But it was always on our mind that we want to get them in. Because they finally came to the conclusion they didn't know how many missions we should fly for the first 6 months. And they finally decided 35 would be a tour. And that was just a stretch. On my, let's see, it was, we were there in India about a year, and I got wounded pretty badly one time on the way to Singapore, and damn near bled to death. And luckily we had a couple of guys in the airplane that knew more about medical aid than some of the normal guys, and I was off flying for about 4 months. So I got behind all my contemporaries that I came overseas with. They were either dead or gone by the time the year was up, and that was when they decided that we would go to take the whole wing and move them out to the Marianas. So the 58th Wing was going to the island of Tinian. I don't know if anybody's been on Tinian. So it was just like a godsend. After India, we looked at this, we said, look at the beaches, look at the water. But anyway, we flew across over the hump again, and of course across China and part of and over the north of the Philippines there, and then the Marianas, and landed there and was just delighted. I had at that time about I think I completed about maybe it was 28 or 9 missions by then. And then a year, that's a long time to fly that few missions. But from Tinian, it was, you know, the missions were a lot different. We had, like I said, we had got in February of that year, the Marines had taken Evo, which saved our butts. And so it was always nice to know that you had that to come to if you had to, and then emergencies. So anyway, I think it was, yeah, my 34th mission was a memorable mission for me. And I said, boy, this one and one more and I'm going home. Well, that happened to be a max effort mission to Tokyo. And by the way, Tokyo, we destroyed 21 square miles, burned out. And I don't know how those people are holding on, but in any event, we got, it was a night mission and we got hit pretty bad. And lost one of the engines, and one of the other engines, cylinder temperature was starting to race up, and it was tough. And we got hit by a bunch of fighters and stuff. And so I got the pilot and I said, get right on the deck. It's the only way we're going to get out of this thing is get on the water. So we dove for the damn bay, and I mean, we were kicking up whitecaps behind us. And the fighters up there couldn't get to us. They made a couple passes, but they couldn't press any attack. And we could defend ourselves pretty good, shooting only up. Well, we flew up right out Tokyo Bay, believe it or not. And I had the flimsy out, you know, and it said where the submarines. We had submarines spotted along the, you know, from all the way from the Marianas to Japan, every 2 degrees. And we're heading for the northern one there. And just before we get there, we're struggling to keep the airplane in the air and get as far away from Japan as we can. And look down there, and the last line on here read says, submarine off station. I said, oh. Well, anyway, we got our message out to headquarters in Guam that we were going to get to a certain location where the submarine would be. And so we ditched, and the weather was really rough. Some of these troughs are as high as the ceiling, and that was a wonderful landing on that thing. Came in tail low, and the airplane held together fine. Looked out, all of the glass in front of the look out there, and we're going straight down the bottom of the ocean. Well, luckily it came back like that up to the surface. But the airplane floated very well. It was a tight airplane. And I don't know, I know that Dave knows about B-29s, and some of the others around here do too, that work for Boeing and stuff, but it floated well. So anyway, we had one guy that had caught a 40 millimeter in the chest. We knew he was dead. We had 2 other gunners in the back wounded pretty badly. And so we got everybody out, the 2 big boats. And they tied onto the flap was down, they tied onto that thing. At that point, as heck, the airplane's floating, I'm going back in and find out, well, any other stuff we can use, you know. In my mind, I'm saying, well, I'll get a map, you know, where we're going, all this good stuff. And anyway, I got into the airplane, started gathering up a lot of little food and stuff around that we had, and water, and got another boat, put it up on there and popped it, you know, and tied everything in. Parachute, I was really prepared. So anyway, getting ready to go, popped out there, and the rafts are gone. I said, oh, damn, they left me. Me. Well, obviously this guy didn't know anything about tying knots. He should have had some training by the Navy, I guess. So I sat there and I said to myself, I'll kill him. If I ever see him, I'll kill him. And so you sit there, you know, I'm just a kid. And I'm trying to figure out, let's see, I know if I stay in the airplane, the Japanese are going to find it for sure, 100 miles off their coast, with a lot of activity. If I stay with the airplane and it sinks, I'm going to be asleep, that'll take care of it. And the other thing, which left me no choice, was to stay as close as I could to the 2 big boats. So I launched myself with my extra raft and everything tied in nicely, and then the weather went to hell. I mean, it was terrible. It just, I can't even explain how bad it was. And you know, you drink a lot of salt water and those kind of things, you know, and you're sitting there and you can't figure out what direction you're going or where the sky is or where the water is. But in any event, made it through the night. I don't know how. I was out of the boat mostly, you know, I just hung on. Tied myself to it, of course. And the next morning it cooled off a little bit and I looked for my other boat. It was gone. So I was down to basics again and started my voyage. And only once, the wind was howling, I think I heard the other guys yelling or blowing their whistle, whatever it was, I forget now, but that was it. And I knew I couldn't be too far from them, but of course I knew Also, that we might float at different speeds because of 2 boats versus a 3.5 foot dinghy. And so I sat there and just tried to figure out what the heck I was going to do, really. And but survival's a thing. And you know, during the training for B-29 crewmen, we had pretty good survival training, really good survival training. But you know what? But died just about that fast. The rest of them, I was on my own. There was basic things I could remember you should do, but believe me, you just can't train a guy for that kind of stuff. So anyway, the next day, you know, during the day, you hope somebody would find you, but I had been coming back from a mission earlier, I had been diverted about 200 miles north of Tinian to find a crew that had ditched, and they were in the water, 2 boats, and you know, we went over there, and below it, there they were. I was wonderful. So we did a needle and ball turn, came around, 20 minutes later we found them again. So I knew how difficult it is to see people in the water. And I thought to myself, this came back to me as, oh my God. Well anyway, what we did on those guys, we dropped all our sea marker dye on them and took off. But I knew that the chances of anybody seeing me that's going on a combat mission is 0 because they're not looking for anybody in the water. They're thinking about that, getting to their IP and stuff. And so the only people who are going to find you are the Japanese, and that's not good. So I decided that I'd try to get as far away from Japan as I could, obviously, but you're pretty limited in your resources, you know, your hands don't paddle very good. But, you know, I went through a series of different things, but I remember a couple of days later, I heard an airplane. I mean, I heard other airplanes, but I knew this was an American airplane because the synchronization of the props was proper. The Japanese, I don't know, they have wah, 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 wah. You can always tell when they're coming. You dump the green cover over your boat, you can hear that. But this was an American airplane. And so I could hear it in the distance, and I figured it was takeoff power. And I thought, well, that must be a PBY. And they're going to come back and get me. Well, that didn't happen. And the Navy had come out from Ewell, and they said that they had told the rest of the crew, we can't go back for him because, number one, he's right in the middle of a mess. A lot of enemy activity right there. There's a storm coming, and you got 2 badly wounded guys. So the decision was to go on and leave me. And I heard that airplane, I heard the sound go away, and I thought, no, that's it. But you gotta carry on. You gotta hang in there. And that was the thought, all the time, hang in there. Well, I went through a series of different things. It was kind of adventurous in a lot of ways when you think about it. There was one day there where I felt something and looked out there, and there's these 2 great big fish. I said, oh my God, are they shark or what? I think they're basking sharks. Anyway, I finally got enough nerve to touch one, and on that sandpaper, I thought, get away from my boat, you know. Well, they were with me for a day, and when they left, I was really lonesome, but another event happened out there. I dozed off one night, and nothing, the stars were beautiful and everything, and I woke up, I heard noises, and what the devil's going on? And I look around, and I'm surrounded by ships, boats, and I can see their light, you know, the single light. And I heard this jabbering, it's Japanese. And I said, oh my God. I had actually ended up in the middle of a Japanese fishing fleet. And they had circled out and put their nets out and everything. Here I am, caught. Oh God. So anyway, I paddled myself over close to one of the boats, and after it got quiet, you know, a couple hours later, and started climbing over the net, pulling my boat, and I wanted to get out of there. Finally got over the darn thing and into the water, and paddled like the devil. And so anyway, I got away from them. The next morning, I damn near get run over by another one. He's apparently heading to where they were. They didn't see me, but they knocked me on my raft. And anyway, those are the kind of things that happened. And you had your highs and your lows, daytime, nighttime. And so finally, one day, The ocean seemed to be about as good as it's ever been out while I was out there at least. And I'm fishing. Oh, by the way, it took me 4 days. I had this little kit. And I fished, and I thought I was a pretty good fisherman, but I didn't catch a doodly squat. I'm trying everything I can. So anyway, finally I got a snag, you know, and I gingerly pull this thing in, and I look at it, and what is this? And you know, you won't believe it. I still had my blue manual and my flight suit, and it was so waterlogged and everything, you could hardly turn a page. I finally got to where the fish were edible and non-edible. It was, none of them looked like this thing. I took the book and I threw it away. So I said to myself, well, I'm mighty hungry. And so I cut it up and peeled it, and a little bit of white meat, chew on it, spit it out, chew on it, spit it out, chew on it, swallow it. Not bad. So anyway, that changed everything for me. I had bait. Bait was the answer. And I'd go out there trolling, I was catching all kinds of crap. But in fact, one time there, I was fishing and had my line over here, and that line went right through my finger, about a quarter of an inch through. And I don't know what I had there, but I was trying to hold on. The boat was going around in circles, and I'm holding on. I said to myself, even if I got this thing, what was I going to do with it? So I said, well, get much so I cut the line. I must have caught a tuna or some damn thing, who knows. But time went on, and finally one day, while I was doing this fishing again, after I'd finally figured out how to do it, oh, by the way, water was always the problem. The minute you get in the boat when you ditch, you start to conserve on everything, of course, and prepare for the long pull, even though you might be picked up the next day. But in any event, water was always a thing. And out there, you know, it rained like the devil. From here to the runway, you couldn't get to it. Or else it rained on you so damn much you thought you were going to drown. And what I do, wash that thing off, hurry up, the top cover, and drink as much as I could till I was coming out of my ears, fill up everything I had, and that was that. But water was always the thing that you had to really worry about, even though it rained a lot. Well, that day finally came, and there I was, dumb, fat, and happy, fishing, and I heard this god-awful noise. It was just beyond belief what a submarine sounds like when it blows, surfaces. Who was a submariner? Yeah, you know. So, and I, out of the boat and everything, all that stuff I had in my lap was gone, and I pulled myself up gingerly, and I look out there, and it's a big black thing. You know, submarines are 330 feet long. You know, it's not like, you know, you always think of a submarine little thing. It's not. Anyway, I finally looked, and I can see American sailors. Whew. They pulled me on board, and as I got out, my legs were rubber as the devil and everything, and the skipper from the conning tower called me by name. He says, "Welcome aboard, Lieutenant Mr. Lee," and I went. But the truth of the matter was, the rest of the guys in the crew, my two pilots, were yelling and screaming at everybody because they weren't sending anybody out there. Well, what happened was this particular submarine was sent from Guam, and it left a day early because of me. You know, where else would the whole submarine go 1,500 miles for one man? It was the start of a mission, but nevertheless, they were coming after me. So anyway, they all's out, and they knew where I was. They could tell from their drift maps and everything else where I'd gone and where I was supposed to be, considering the storms and everything, which is phenomenal, I think. And anyway, after I got aboard there and was greeted and everything, the corpsman, who was a first class petty officer, he stripped all this crap off me, put me in bed, and started feeding me soup. And the cook, he and I just got along great. He just thought it was the greatest thing that came down the pike. But anyway, it took about, and the XO had given me his bunk. I said, "Well, sir, I can't do that." He said, "Did I ask your opinion?" I said, "No, sir," because there was a bunk for officers in the officer quarters. But anyway, And about 3 days later, they declared me as fit. And he came in and he says, out of my bunk. So I was out of his bunk. Well, anyway, this started quite an adventure for me. Nobody on a submarine rides. So with my training as a navigator and everything, I fit in pretty good with these guys. That guy started doing all of their navigation, and they taught me how to use the computer, the torpedo computer. So I was doing that, and then I actually became a watch officer. I had here I am, an Air Force officer in Navy dungarees, and actually conducting business on this darn submarine. And you know, I liked it. If I wasn't in the Air Force, I swear that's where I'd want to be, in a submarine. And everybody says, how can you put up with it? Hey, it's bigger than the B-29 inside. But I spent, they'd go out of Guam for 70 days. That was their normal mission. Their primary mission was picking up flyers. Secondary mission was sinking Japanese ships. And we did both. And what a thrill. You know, I mean, we went through some trying times, being depth charged and everything else. I mean, to tell you, that's scary. That's worse than being up in the buff, being shot at by flak. Talk about digging holes. There's no holes there either. But in any event, I started to enjoy it, you know, really. I said, gee, this is a pretty good life and everything. And the cook there, he took a liking to me, and every time he turned around, he'd give me something special, or here's a piece of pie, Mr. Easterly. No, thank you, but on and on like that. But I did enjoy it. And we, like I say, we had quite an eventful time out there. On one occasion, which always comes to mind, the orders were to right off the Japanese coast to wait. They had a big bomb mission, and we were in line, and we were laying offshore. And God, you could hear the airplanes coming in by the hundreds, it seemed. A lot of noise. You can't believe how much noise they make when you're on the surface. I didn't with the airplane. But anyway, we got a call. We got one airplane in distress, and he was in our sector, so that was us. So anyway, they gave us a heading and everything else, so we said, well, let's keep our eyes open and everything, airplane. Well, you know, we're sitting there, and right over us, I mean, maybe 300 or 400 feet, which is nothing. And a great big sucker goes, wow! Right over us. So we turned this sub around, and we're flying speed to catch up with that damn thing. You know, I guess probably the first time in history where a submarine caught a B-29. But anyway, we got there, and the airplanes float pretty good. And I asked permission to go up in the conning tower and take a look, and there was a big old triangle with an N. I said, that's my group. That's my guys. Now, the real thing that gets to you, we started pulling these guys out and taking them out of the boat, putting them on the boat, and they're coming down the companionway. I went down below, and they got the red lights on, and you can't see too well. And I just about flipped. The first guy I saw was my aircraft commander. The next guy in line was the co-pilot. And the third guy in line was this buddy of mine, which in the book I can tell you about, but he and I buddied together, and he went through cadets with me, and finally later on ended up in the B-29s. And digressing just a little bit, because I thought it was kind of an odd story, he, you know, trying to track this all, knowing he's coming out here, he's graduating, he got it, he's finished his training, and pilot and all that stuff, and I said, well, there's a chance, maybe he'll come here, who knows? And sure as hell, he ends up landing this airplane, brand new airplane, which of course you take away real fast. Say, now you get one of those back there. Well, these new airplanes are for lead crews and squadron commanders and operations. Anyway, you know how that works. And so I just couldn't believe it. He was the last guy to come off the airplane. I said, for crying out loud, Steve. Well, anyway, he was flying with my old crew on this particular mission. And anyway, as they walked by, I said, hi, Bob. Who was that? And then I started giving them hell. And they explained to me how the Navy refused to go back and get me and all that stuff. And I perfectly understood that for then, but up to that point I didn't understand it very well. So anyway, we had picked up 17 flyers. You can't imagine 17 extra guys on a submarine. I mean, if you can't believe me, it's like putting on your shoe. But anyway, another mission which I thought was really great, well, on a life-saving mission, was we got this call where, again, we're doing our duty, and they gave us coordinates of this crew that had ditched. And so we went this coordinate, and they weren't there. And we know they, right? So I got the map, I was looking at it, and I says, oh, Jesus, 10 miles up the coast, there's another cove just like this. So we went balls out up there, and sure as heck, there's the airplane floating. Well, we start to load these guys on board, and about then, there was 2 Japanese fighters come swishing through, and this is the worst thing in the world for a submarine. Be caught on the surface. And, but we had these guys, you know, it's really no-win situation because you can't leave them now, you're there. So we load them on board. During that attack, we lost 1 sailor and 1 guy from the B-29 crew, but in the straight attack. But just a few seconds later, the Japanese fighters start to go away, and here comes a P-47. 8 guns are blazing away, and 1 guy goes down, the other guy is fluttering away, and then we said, my God, that guy saved our butt. And then he gets attacked by some other fighters, and he goes down. And we pick him up too. Anyway, we got him aboard, we got out to sea and everything else, and for some reason we were playing a little game. And we decided that they don't have to know I'm an Air Force officer. I'm not dressed like one, I look like a Navy officer. So anyway, it was really funny. This guy was a major, a young major, a hot rock pilot. And when he found out that I was in the Air Force, he was pissed. And I says, you mean to tell me you didn't enjoy our hospitality? You should have told me. I says, you didn't ask. But anyway, he calmed down, and we finally made our way back to Guam. And the last thing they did, that everybody lined up in front of the boat, they hung these, there it is. I don't think there's any other Air Force officer who owns a pair of dolphins. And they said I was totally qualified submariner. That's kind of thing. But anyway, that boat, and it's a different name in the book, was the last submarine lost in World War II. I still think about that day, and get a little emotional about it, because I knew everybody, 80 guys in that boat, I knew them all. There was 1 or 2 guys that transferred off when they got back, and the XO got a boat of his own, so he was gone and everything, but I knew those guys, and I'd been with them close for 2 months. And I didn't hear about this thing until about 3 or 4 months later. But that was the bullhead. I call it CVAT in the book. Mostly change names so that you don't get this flurry of people jump on you saying, oh, what about this guy and that guy? You don't want to answer that. But then it was quite eventful. I had, during my time there in Tinian, put in for flight training, and my captaincy was laying there. And the squadron, when I finally got back to the squadron, they said, well, you're through flying, but we do need help, a little bit of help. They were flying these prisoner of war drop missions, and what they had done on the B-29 is painted underneath, they put in prisoner of war supplies. And boy, I'll tell you, you're talking about trying to find places that are hidden. Some of these camps were really hidden well. But I thought I might end up my little story. There's a lot of other things to tell you about, but I don't want to bore you. About this one event, and that was that we, I had no intention of staying in the service. I mean, I didn't know. 16 million guys in uniform, they're all rushing to get out. I was, I'll wait for a while. And it was great because we got to fly as much as we wanted and stuff like that. And it was good fun having everybody around your neck, but nobody was there wasn't any unit that was operational. I mean, they were just good. But anyway, I hung on, and the reason I said, well, if they promote me to captain, which was on the table, and my my squadron commander said, well, let's wait till he's back stateside. I said, yeah, I know how that works. I know how that works. But he says, we can't do anything now, there's no way to do anything. So anyway, we got 45 days leave and we got back. And when I came back to the squadron, I got my promotion and my orders for 1948 class, first one after World War II. But anyway, I wanted to tell you, my brother was older brother, he was a carpenter. And down here in the San Fernando Valley, and I went to visit him. And he said, well, come on with me to a union meeting. I said, well, I don't go much for unions. And he said, oh, come along anyway. He just ride with me. So we're going down one of these roads out in the valley there. And here's a sailor on the side of the road. And he's fixing a tire. I said, hey, pull over. Okay, help me. I had my L2A jacket on, the Air Force on and everything. So anyway, we stopped and we were sitting there. He says, you Air Corps? I said, yeah. He says, I said, I see you're in the Navy. He said, oh, I love you guys. I said, you do? Most Navy guys don't love us. Yeah. And he said, well, he says, my God, I was a PW. I said, you were? And yeah, he says, I was up there in Hokkaido. And then, by the way, this place was really a devil to find. But anyway, we flew over this thing, and here's this mound. And there's 2 or 3 guys in there. One guy up there, there's a big old white flag. And we buzzed by him, you know, we came back and dropped all this stuff, you know, and medical and food and uniforms and blankets and everything for him. And what? And so this guy says, oh yeah, he says, I remember that B-29. He says, oh, he's a big 41. Small world, huh? Anyway, I'm going to kind of end there. There's a whole lot of little things that it's impossible. I can sit here and talk for hours and hours, and I know you get bored after a while. I see a few people bobbing off back there. And there's not even a TV on. But I'd be happy to try to answer any of your questions. If I can't remember, I'll lie. Yes, sir.
Where were you after the Enola Gay did its thing, and how did you find out about all that?
I'm sorry to speak.
The Enola Gay after the nuclear bomb.
Oh, sure.
Did you find out about that? What were you doing at the time?
Well, you're talking about my friend?
No, yourself.
Oh.
Where were you when it happened, and how did you hear about it?
Oh, you mean the submarine?
No, after the Enola Gay.
Enola Gay.
Oh, the Enola Gay. I'm sorry. You know, hearing aids don't pick up sometime. The Enola Gay, well, I'll tell you, I was on a mission, as a matter of fact, the day that bomb was dropped, and we didn't know what the hell it was. We were right next there, and I need to tell you something about, well, kept secret. We were on the same island. We were on the north west field, and they were on north field. And we didn't know anything about it. You didn't have any time. You're either eating and sleeping or flying. So when this thing went off, we were coming back to this mission. And the tail gunner, I think it was, or somebody back there says, look at that funny cloud. And he said, come up here and look at it. I'm the expert. You know, I know all about weather. And I said, beats the shit out of me. So anyway, we found out later on that it was the first bomb. And that was where I was. My friend Dick.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you going to talk about your second book?
I am, the next time you invite me up. And I'll tell you what, I'll start with World War II on, and I think it was pretty exciting.
Okay, I want to say that Colonel was in Vietnam about the same time I was, and he was the commander of an F-4C squadron, and got shot down once, maybe twice.
Well,
anyway,
bailed out.
You got to read the book to find out what it is, and it's just as good as what he just told us about. So,
And I suppose I can include a few of you. And every day you get older, you gotta make these memories, and some of the memories everybody says, well, how do you remember this stuff? And I said, it's so indelible. And I don't know why, but it impresses you. And I guess not everybody's the same. I've heard guys say, oh, they won't talk about their war experience. That's wrong.
Amen.
People should know what it's like.
Amen.
And it's not fun. I mean, we made it fun, but war is hell. I know the only guys that don't want war are us. The politicians, they want the wars so that we can bleed. But anyway, I got my soapbox out, and boy, do I agree with him. When he said Ronald Reagan, that was my hero. You bet. Questions? Come on. Yes, sir.
So how long were you floating in the ocean before you?
8 days.
8 days?
Yes, 8 days.
Talk a little bit about your deal on Berlin.
Oh, okay, well, I was gonna do that next time, but,
Well, just give a little.
all right.
Teaser.
Little teaser. Ended up 51s and flew the Unibirds down the other end of the field. The air base flight said they needed flying time to get fuel and all that stuff, and come on down, fly them. I didn't know fly those. Well, we went down and fly those because we could go anywhere we wanted. Every weekend we had an airplane to fly around the country. Do we wanted? Oh, we had a ball. And then the hammer fell. Called in and said, you want to go to Berlin? Fighters? Oh, no. C-54s. You know what? No, not big enough. Well, anyway, to make a short story longer, I ended up over there for a year, and you become probably, I would say, unqualified, the best instrument pilots in the world if you flew the Berlin airlift. They gave you a 10-mile corridor, 10-mile high. You had to stay in that thing from either Wiesbaden or from Rhine-Main into Berlin. You're harassed by the damn Russians. This yak right here, the two of them. One of them got into the prop and went down in pieces. Right out of the landing. And when you're flying, I'm not sure, I don't know how many guys flew cargo, but there's a gross weight, and then there's a military gross weight, or a combat gross weight. And that's a hell of a lot more, which makes an airplane that flies very nicely sluggish as a devil. And it's not an easy thing to control, especially when you got an engine that fell off the airplane, being struck. And luckily, being close enough, lose about 10,000 feet and then get on the runway and luckily land the thing. And that was the start of a lot of things. But anyway, that was quite an experience. Went to Korea from there. But next time I'm up, I'd be happy to start where I left this thing off. And there were some pretty exciting times during those, Korea, Vietnam, airlift. I was with the Navy for 3 years. I think I was probably the first Air Force officer period qualified. But anyway, it was great. I wish I could do it one more time before I die. Questions? Nobody else?
Next time.
Well, thank you very much.